So you got to ask questions. You were gonna.
All right. So
You're going to shine your shoes while you're at it?
yes. See, this is why I wanted to have it sitting on something, because y'all are gonna make me laugh. So tell me how you met.
So put it on something.
I was trying to, and then you wanted to get up and leave.
Huh?
You were being impatient. She was trying to figure it out, baby.
Well, figure it out.
It's already going. I'll just hold it.
So, how did we meet?
How did we meet?
Mm-hmm.
We met at the Waves Barracks and
Groton, Connecticut.
at the submarine base.
Yes.
You just run into each other, or?
The Chiefs Barracks was being modified, renovated. So
And that's where you stay.
So they moved us into the Waves Barracks first floor. And I don't know if the Waves had their own rooms before, but they didn't after that.
Yeah, we had our own rooms, second and third floor. I was on the third floor.
So they had to double up in their rooms.
Yeah.
So the Chiefs would have their own rooms on the first floor.
And then we shared the common area, the lounge and the pool hall, pool tables and coffee machines and that kind of stuff. And
So that's where we met, was in the lounge.
Yeah. It was 1975, in the summer. And I had seen him around the barracks.
Oh, I'd seen her around the barracks too. That tall, good-looking blonde.
You decided to ask her out?
Took him a
What?
while.
You decided to ask her out?
After a while, yeah.
How'd you do that?
We were sitting in the lounge.
Yeah, we'd been sitting there, and I'd been bragging about how I had a date, and I'd been working for 14 days straight, and I finally had a date, and this is like at noontime or something, and because I'd been working nights, and all of a sudden I got a phone call, and it was the guy I had a date with. He got pulled for duty. So I came back in all dejected, look, went those plans. And by then there were only a couple of us sitting around the table. And
Fortunately.
Yeah.
I'd probably chicken out otherwise.
he asked me to go out. And I said yes.
I think it was really just the two of us.
Yeah. And he left, walked out, and he came back in and he said, "Oh, by the way, you don't even know my name." And I said, "Yeah, it's Don." He goes, "No, it's Pat." And I thought, "Oh, crap." And we went out that night.
To the Blue Velvet.
And danced and danced and danced and danced and talked.
Blue Velvet was in New London.
Mm-hmm. And he told me that he didn't know how to dance. And I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." We were dancing the night away and stayed up.
Certainly knew the jitterbug.
Mm-hmm. And we stayed out until 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know.
We sat and talked in the car for a long time.
Yeah. We went to dinner and dancing, and then we went to a place like Denny's afterwards and sat and then talked in the car. And when I came in, I woke up my roommate, who was also my best friend in boot camp, and told her I was going to marry this guy. And she was really angry. She was half Irish and half Italian, and she got really mad at me for waking her up because I was crazy as a loon. But here we are.
After that date.
You went to sea.
Yeah, I went to sea. Went on sea trials with a submarine. Went down to Florida to do some missile testing and that type of thing. So the whole time we were gone, I'd write letters and call over the Watts line, what they call the Watts line, which is kind of a free
Business only phone.
Yeah,
From the sub to the base?
yeah.
Well, that's when they were hooked up. Not when he was at sea, but
Yeah,
when they
when we
were.
were sitting next to the pier.
Yeah.
when we were at sea, I couldn't
But we,
communicate.
Even before he left, we had that date, and the next day he went to sea, and
Or shortly thereafter.
yeah,
Right?
and I came home from work, and there was an 11-page letter waiting for me at the quarterdeck of the Wave Spirits, and he told me
Told her about my life.
yeah, and his ex-wife and his kids, and just poured his heart out to me, and then we wrote letters and called, and
You still have them?
Yeah.
You still have the letters?
Yeah. They have to be edited though.
Blacked out. A lot of blackouts.
Well, not the early ones. Later
True.
on. But
I was gonna say my ex-wife was so and so. Let's get it on. Like
no.
You going to sea is the routine was you went over to Holy Loch, Scotland for 30 days to do a refit, take over the missile carrying submarine, do a refit, go to sea, submerge for 60 days or longer. You come back in, go into Holy Loch, turn over the ship to the other crew, and come back home, but come back to New London, Groton, Connecticut, to the submarine base for 60 days before you'd go back over. The submarine had 2 crews on it. So during the refit, I would sit down and write letters and basically give them, they'd end up with the other crew, but they had dates on the envelopes of the letters that basically said mail on this day. So I'd write 10, 15 letters.
Or more.
Yeah. So she'd get quite a few letters while I was gone.
And he would always have flowers sent with a handwritten card that he had already set up at the florist, or with a buddy, get me something.
this was all after the first date.
That was after we got married. But we got married, what?
A few months later.
Yeah. After our first date and all the phone calls and messages, I knew I loved him. I knew that he loved me. And they were bringing the sub back to Groton, Connecticut. And, I got all dolled up, went to the pier. It was really an exciting thing because we drive to the end of the Thames River in Connecticut and follow the submarine down the Thames River.
Coming up the river.
Yeah. And we could still beat it back to the base and park and get to the pier before the boat because it was so slow.
Took time to tie it up to
yeah,
the pier.
it did. Anyway, all the guys, he was on the blue crew. They were that were tying it up and everything were on the top deck. And when you have 2 crews, no one leaves the submarine before the captains change command, and the captain's the first one off the boat. And, my best friend Ginger, her boyfriend or husband at the time, was
What was Chuck's last name?
Langer.
Langer, that's right.
And Chuck was on deck, and I'm like, where's Pat? And he said, oh, I'll get him. He's shutting, he's down in the aft reactor compartment. So he went down.
It's only one.
I don't know. He said something about aft. Anyway, he went back to the back of the boat and went down the stairs, down
into the engine room hatch.
Yeah. And up comes your dad, and he's in his khakis, really he always looked good in khakis. And I'm on the pier waving and walking, you know, like, hey, I'm here. Hi. Doesn't look at me at all. And, you know, I'm all dressed up in a dress, have my hair all done and everything. And it's just kind of misty, wet. Doesn't look at me, doesn't smile at me, doesn't do anything. But he does something really out of protocol, which surprised everybody. Is he went up to and interrupted the chain of command, the change of command.
The captains.
And said something to him, and they both smiled, and he did an about face. And the gangway was on the submarine, and like I said, it was raining.
The gangway went from the submarine to the pier. Right.
And of course, I had been following him up. I was on the pier following him up on the boat, you know, even. And so I was down by the end of the gangway. And when he did that about face, he took these like 2 big giant steps and slid down the gangway like, you know, like you see in the old B movies. Picked me up, twirled me around, and screamed, "I love you." And all the guys on the boat, "Go, Chief! Way to go, Chief Donovan!" You know, they were just all whooping and hollering, and everybody was clapping. You know, very, very B-movie romantic.
You realize this was all after one date.
Yeah. One date and lots
of talking.
Yeah. But,
what was going through your mind when you decided to do that, Pop?
Huh?
What made you decide to do that?
Spur of the moment thing.
Yeah. Just Mr. Romantic.
Why not?
So you only had a couple more dates, though, right? And then you went back out to sea?
well, he was home for 3 months.
3 months and went back to sea. That was in
So y'all got married before you went back out to sea?
Mm-hmm.
about October.
Yeah, it was the end of October. In fact, one of our favorite photos, or my favorite photos of us, is on the beach at Groton. We were walking, and there was this old, abandoned, broken rowboat on the beach. And we'd been talking and just having a grand time. And he said, "I never asked you." And I said, "Ask me what?" And he set me down on it wasn't broken. And he got down on the little rowboat.
Sunken boat.
Yeah, it was buried in the sand. And got down on one knee and asked me to marry him.
We made a heart in the sand.
Yes.
With PD and KS on it. And an elderly couple came by. We had the camera, so we asked them to take a picture of us. So we were both sitting on this wrecked boat when they took the picture.
Mm-hmm. But.
And then about beginning of January, hadn't gone back to sea yet. Beginning of January, we were at the Country Kitchen restaurant. When I said to her, I've decided I'm not going to get married in June, because that's when we made a date for getting married. And she almost fell out of her chair. I said, "Why don't we do it now?"
Well,
so that's what we did. January 23rd, we got married.
Yeah, but the only reason I almost fell in my chair is because you have that pregnant pause. I don't want to get married now. That's where my hearing stopped. He says, "I want to get married now. I don't want to get married in June. I want to get married now."
So tell me about your wedding day. I know it was really eventful for Mom.
It was cold.
The coldest day in Connecticut history
Well,
in 45 years.
Yeah.
Snow.
It was cold. She couldn't get her car started. We were having the reception at some friends' house, um, 30 miles away from the submarine base. But we got married at the submarine base chapel by the submarine base chaplain, the chapel chaplain. Interesting thing happened after the wedding. As we were walking out, I opened the door for her. Here's all these people waiting there to throw rice on us. So I let her out, and then I closed the door.
He left me out there to get pummeled by rice. And when I knocked on the door, he says, I remembered that part. Because, we had talked, and I said our vows when they were asked and everything, and every ounce of my being to talk was coming out. And you could barely hear me. It was just, I was scared to death. We were late Dad and I were late getting to the church because the guards wouldn't let us in to the base because my dad had a rental car. Even though he was retired Navy, they just gave us a ration of crap. And we finally got to the chapel, and Dad was helping me walk into the chapel, but I was already in my gown. And I stopped and I said, Dad, I'm going to puke. And he says, if you do, I'm going to bend you over my knee. I'm going to spank you. And got into the church and sat in the back and, could see your dad and Steve Jackson up at the altar. And literally
Steve Jackson was my best man.
Yeah. Don't remember a lot of walking down the aisle and all that, except I shook so bad. My dad just kept grabbing my arm, and he'd whisper, it's okay, And a little side note is I was late getting to the reception, and like hours late getting to the house, to the Judsons where we had the reception. And I walked into the Judsons, and there's your dad. And by this time, I was frustrated, tired, and I saw him, and I got mad because, you're not supposed to see me. And I ran into the living room, and Grace Judson came in. She was a little tiny Italian lady. Giancotti was her maiden name. And she hugged me, and her head was in my chest. And she says, oh, Kathy, I've got something to make it all better. And I looked up, and my dad was there.